Pennsylvania is wrapping up 2011 with a better business climate. Despite big budget cuts in Harrisburg to bring state expenses in line with revenues, the Commonwealth did hold the line on business taxes, preserving the gains made in recent years to level the playing field with competing states. And there was at least one big step forward this year. Pennsylvania did what more than 40 other states had already done and adopted lawsuit abuse reform, something the Greater Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce and numerous partners across the state had been championing for years. Mike Turzai is Majority Leader of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, one of those champions. So is Lynne Schmidt, Vice President of Government and Community Affairs for PPG Industries. And welcome. Good to see you both.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
Now, Mike, this was hard fought for years to get this done.
Oh, my goodness, yes. You know, Bill, really both inside the Capitol and outside the Capitol, the employment community, the private sector employment community, have really been arguing that we needed some common sense lawsuit abuse reform. It was difficult, I have to say, under the last governor to get this accomplished. In fact, we did get it on his desk once and he vetoed it, and we did not have the votes to override it. And then once our colleagues had taken over the House, we couldn't even get a vote on it. So Governor Corbett and friends like Lynne Schmidt, who have been leading the charge from the private sector employment, everybody said we've got to at least lead off with the Fair Share Act, which makes changes to this joint liability. And we got it done in the House early May and ultimately finished it up before the budget in June 30th. We had to pass it twice in the House, but we did get the Senate to go along with it, and the governor signed it. And we think it is an important jobs bill, because the state needs, we are lagging behind other competitor states in lawsuit abuse reform.
And why was this such a big deal? And when you look at the competitive landscape for Pennsylvania?
Well, one, unfortunately, with regard to making some very basic civil justice reforms, Pennsylvania ranks on the bottom, which is not good for the state. Also, what happened this year is there's an annual report done by ATRA, the American Tort Reform Association, and Philadelphia was ranked as the #1 what they call judicial hellhole. That is terrible for business for Pennsylvania. Other states and jurisdictions have had that ranking, and they want to change it. You don't want to have that again, and it means you have a problem. So the problem has to be addressed. But on joint and several liability, 40 other states had reformed this, so that's how much we were behind.
Wow.
So we're really playing catch-up.
Well, I know in our next segment we're going to go a little deeper into what this really means to a business and how this is going to work in the real world now that it's the law in Pennsylvania. But as you look ahead, I mean, it sounds like this was only one step, though. You haven't solved the lawsuit abuse issue in Pennsylvania.
I would absolutely agree with you, Bill. It was a significant step because joint liability was an issue whereby you could hold another party responsible for something they didn't do wrong, and it was a real deterrent to getting a fair shake, I think, in the legal system. So really the Fair Share Act, or our changes to this joint liability, had to be the leadoff. But there are some other measures that we think are important. We think that we need to make some changes to what we call venue, where you can actually bring a lawsuit. We made changes in the medical malpractice liability reform, and they've had positive results. But we have not done in other areas of civil jurisdiction. And then we also want to make changes, and Lynn knows both of these issues in a very tangible way, given all the locations they have here in Pennsylvania, and the employees they have in Pennsylvania. But the other one is an item called statute of repose. Other states actually kind of clamp down on the amount of time you can bring a suit in a products liability type case. Pennsylvania doesn't have that. Ohio, by way of example, has a statute of repose. It's only common sense. We don't have one in Pennsylvania.
So it's like a statute of limitations. People hear about that in other types of litigation. We don't do that in Pennsylvania.
Not in certain kind of lawsuits with regard to product liability. And Bill, one of the things that I think is really important for the public to understand, most of the things we're talking about, you would think are already part of the law. So that's where it's gotten out of balance. And what we're trying to do is, as Mike said, make common sense reform. And another thing on venue that Mike just referenced, these changes were made for the medical community. You only should be able to file a lawsuit where you were hurt. Well, again, you would say, that makes sense. And what we're looking to do, that's made a huge difference with regard to health care in Pennsylvania. It's actually brought costs down because there was a lot of unnecessary cost where the lawsuits were filed outside of where the harm actually occurred. So why is that done? Frankly, some of the lawyers are doing what maybe lawyers do for their client. You want to go where maybe you can get the best return, but that isn't actually fair because the right place should be in the local jurisdiction of where the harm alleged to have occurred.
Only a few seconds left. Mike, you think any of this can move next year?
Oh, I do. I actually, we in the House are very proactive, working with the employers in this state whose jobs we want to see stay in Pennsylvania, good paying jobs. We are working on really a very tangible, incremental approach whereby we're going to take venue, run it on the floor, get it passed, get it over to the Senate, make changes to punitive damage law in Pennsylvania, make changes to statute of repose. And I think the governor's supportive of these pro-private sector job retention and creation measures, really what they are.
All right, well, congratulations on this step. To you both. Mike Turzai, Majority Leader, Lynne Schmidt, PPG. Good to see you both.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And next up, the nuts and bolts of lawsuit abuse reform, what it actually means to your business. Stay with us.